Yeah, that just went as we all expected it to go, right?
The game of the year is
Moonlight. Best Picture.
Astrobot.
I'll tell you what, the Game Awards 2024 was a complete shocker for me. You know, last year, the Game Awards was kind of a major disappointment for a lot of people. But, I mean, Jeff Keighley even said, leading up to that year's Game Awards, hey, don't be expecting anything big. Don't be expecting anything that's going to knock your socks off in terms of announcements. This is kind of a down year for us, and we're gearing up for 2024. And so, coming into this year, I know a lot of people were not expecting a whole lot, though there were a couple of, not leaks, but there was some buzz of, hey, there's going to be some stuff here that's going to completely catch you off guard and you're going to get really excited about. Let's put the awards kind of to the side for a minute, because we'll talk about that later. What I typically watch the video game awards for are the announcements. You know, I miss the E3 era. I miss the era of all these big banger announcements, one after another, of games that you're going to be expecting to play within the next year or the next couple of years. We haven't had that vibe in a long time. All of the game publishers are moving to, or have moved to, their own digital sort of announcements for all of these video games or all the games that are coming out. And that feels like that's kind of slowed down over the past couple of years. It feels like we haven't had really a whole lot of major announcements recently. It feels like, okay, where are all these games? Where's all the stuff that we can look forward to as gamers? Where are the things that we can be excited about? Shoot, like outlets like IGN had even just recently said, hey, the AAA video game bubble has burst and people aren't excited about games. And I don't think that's true. I think people are ready and waiting for games that they want to play. And I do think this year may be one of the greatest announcement years for video games ever. Now, whether or not these games end up living up to the hype of the announcements, that remains to be seen, but I have to give credit where credit is due. Jeff put together an incredible show, maybe the best video game awards ever. And if you were to include this in the times of E3, of when we got announcement after announcement of great stuff that we can be excited about, this is right up there with them. I mean, if you look at the list of games that were just announced during the Game Awards, The Witcher 4, Elden Ring Night Reign, which is seems to be a multiplayer Elden Ring game, standalone, which maybe they made this a standalone instead of DLC, so that way it could be nominated for Game of the Year and no one's going to complain about it. Fumito Ueda's next game, Team Eco, classic Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardian, making what seems to be a Shadow of the Colossus mecha game almost, which, I'm all into that. A new Ninja Gaiden game that's like a side-scroller game. Turok Origins, a multiplayer Turok game in 2024, being announced is mind-blowing. A new Onimusha game. What? And then Project Century from the Like a Dragon devs. I got a lot of Sleeping Dogs kind of vibes from this. Not necessarily in the story of how you're a cop or a detective, but the kind of martial arts gameplay, the living and breathing city environment of a 1915 Japan city or Japanese city looks incredible, right up my alley. I'm looking forward to that. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds was also announced. Just a very brief little teaser. I'll be all over that. Shadow Labyrinth, which is, funny enough, the Pac-Man secret level kind of story turning into its own Metroidvania game. So, funny enough, I had just filmed a video reviewing all of those secret level episodes, at least the first 8 episodes, and I said, hey, maybe I could see this Pac-Man or this version of Pac-Man being another show or being a movie of some sorts. I never considered it being a game, and you know what? We're getting the game version of that, and it looks pretty sick. I'm a big Metroidvania fan. I'm really excited about that. Rematch, which is a Sifu soccer game. It is the studio that made Sifu, making essentially Rocket League without the cars, which sounds really stupid because it just sounds like soccer, but it looks a lot more arcadey than something like FIFA, or even like FIFA Street. Like, this looks like a really fun version of a soccer game, and I think I could end up spending a lot of hours playing that. The biggest probably announcements of the entire night, Okami 2, completely out of left field. Would have never predicted that, expected that. Just crazy. And then Intergalactic, The Heretic, Prophet, Naughty Dog's new game, and then like you see a Porsche spaceship and Adidas sneakers. You got a lot of brands here. You got Sony music and stuff like that kind of being all featured. And so I don't know what that game's going to be. It looks like it's going to be a third-person sci-fi action game. We'll learn more sooner or later. It is brought to us by Naughty Dog, Neil Druckmann directing. I'm excited. I'm excited to see more. Naughty Dog hasn't necessarily missed in a long time. Now, a lot of people argue whether or not The Last of Us 2 is good. I think they're crazy if they think it's not at least good. I think that game's great, but we can argue about that later. Those are most of the announcements, but there are a lot of other smaller ones that I'm not going to mention. It's kind of hard to keep track of all of them, but those announcements were huge. And they started off the night with The Witcher 4 and Elden Ring Night Rain. When those games got announced, I had this weird feeling and sensation of, oh my gosh, we're in for a big show. Not that big show, but a big, like, just nonstop, really great, really exciting announcements. And even outside of the announcements, we had some cool hints and glimpses at stuff that we've seen before. The number one for me is going to be the Mafia Old Country trailer. Now, we knew that this was going to be coming. We knew that the trailer was going to be there. It also had gotten leaked a little bit beforehand. I had not watched it. I just went ahead and watched it during the show, and it looks like everything I want it to be. I'm stoked on that. And so, in terms of just new video game information or trailers or announcements, this is a 10 out of 10 show. This is all you could really ask for, all you could hope for. Now, a lot of people were hoping for something like a Half-Life 3. We didn't get that. I think that is an expectation or a hope that is maybe too big to ever imagine. You know what? At this point, we should probably just say, let's quit expecting it to happen and let's just let it happen and enjoy it when it does. But all of those announcements, I think, were incredible. Now, you can argue whether or not all those games look good, but I have hope for them. And it's one of those things of whether or not you're excited about each individual game. It's so nice to be excited about games coming out. I feel like we've kind of gone through this weird lull in the past few years, and this is probably because of the pandemic, but it seems like the announcements of games have gotten a little bit more sporadic. That doesn't mean we haven't had good games. I think we've had some really great games over the past couple of years, but it feels like at this point we just have not seen just a bunch of stuff to get excited about. And I think we got that from the show. So to Jeff, congratulations. This was incredible. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on some of these games, at least seeing more from them. We didn't see anything from GTA 6. I didn't expect them to. GTA 6 doesn't need the Game Awards. They can kind of just do their own thing. They're fine. But outside of the awards, or not the awards, but outside of the announcements and the, trailers of things we've seen before, there was an award show happening the whole time. A lot of big winners. I think one of the biggest winners that you have to take away before we get into like something like Game of the Year, Balatro winning so many awards. I don't know if it was surprising, but it was very encouraging to see a game that small from one developer. That game gets so much notoriety and so much attention, because I didn't think Balatro was going to win Game of the Year. I think, unlike a lot of people who were in my comments for my Game of the Year, the Game Awards or Game of the Year video that I made a couple weeks back, I think Balatro deserved to be in the conversation. And clearly, I think the amount of awards that it was nominated for, and a lot of the awards that it won because of that, it shows that it did deserve to be in the conversation. And then another big winner, Metaphor ReFantazio. I am so excited that it really won. You know, I think it won Best RPG and Best Narrative. Those are the two really big ones. It is a wonderful game, and I'm glad that it got its notoriety, because I didn't think it was going to win Game of the Year. I think it is good, but I still think while it is a massive game, it still is a little too niche, I think, to have won Game of the Year. I don't think it was as universal as some of the other games. So, which brings us to, remember when everyone was freaking out about Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree being nominated for Game of the Year? Hey, listen, I was one of those people that didn't think it should be there, and I was upset that other games were left out because of it. Well, we didn't have to worry about that for too long, because Astrobot ended up winning Game of the Year. And now I saw a lot of people in my comments saying, you know what, it shouldn't be here. It's not that great, or they don't understand why it's there. Whether or not those people played the game or not, I don't know. But I loved Astrobot. Legitimately, it is one of my favorite video game experiences of the year. My personal Game of the Year is going to come down between Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Space Marine 2, as well as Astrobot. Those four, to me, are almost interchangeable, depending on the day, depending on my mood, of which game is going to be the Game of the Year. But Astrobot was such a special experience in terms of it feeling like pure gameplay goodness, pure video game goodness. Obviously, it takes a lot of inspiration from Mario platformers and other platforms that came before it, but Astrobot is such an incredible celebration of PlayStation and the past 30 years of PlayStation. Now, I expect there are going to be some people who are going to look at the Game Awards, who are going to look at Astrobot winning right after they announced the new Naughty Dog game and be like, okay, did Sony have a hand in this? Did Sony, nudge a couple people, be like, hey, you should vote for Astrobot because this is the 30th year of PlayStation. It should be the biggest year for us. I am not going to buy into that conspiracy. If you want to, that's fine. But I do think it is a really cool narrative. It's a really interesting sort of outcome of the year that we're celebrating, the 30 years of PlayStation. The game that actually does that. The game that brings us back to all the good times with PlayStation is the one that won Game of the Year. I love Astrobot. I platinumed it. It is the game that I really just always wanted to come back to and play. It is the one that I was most looking forward to come home from work and playing. While obviously I love Space Marine 2 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantazio, Astrobot was the game I wanted to play more than any of those games. I just wanted to get home, sit down, grab my controller, and just play and enjoy it. And that's a mix of the stellar gameplay, but also the pure just great nostalgia. Some people act like nostalgia is a bad thing, or that nostalgia is a thing that is cheap, but you can try to capitalize on nostalgia and you can fail miserably. It happens all of the time, but they did it right, and I don't think Astrobot's perfect. I wish Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon as a franchise wasn't as much of a big ending in that game, that it wasn't the kind of last hurrah of that game before you get to more of the challenging endings. Like that is Horizon is kind of like, hey, this is the peak of whatever Astrobot is. I kind of hate that that's a thing, because I don't like Horizon as much as other people do, and it once again just feels like PlayStation shoving Horizon down our throats and being like, hey, you're a PlayStation fan, you have to love Horizon. I like Horizon. I don't have an affinity for it. It doesn't mean anything to me. They're enjoyable games. You know what? I might give them another try, but they're not a game. Those aren't games that I just have to play. With that being said, Astrobot, outside of that, is one of the best games of the year. And if you disagree, well, if you haven't played it, shut up. I'm sorry. It is so good. It is a great game, and I think if you've played it, especially if you have any history with PlayStation, you're going to actually adore it. You're going to love it. And if you have played it and you don't like it and you don't think it deserves to be here, well, then that's fine. You're free to have that opinion. But I also think, I don't know, not every game has to be an Elden Ring. Not every game has to be a Red Dead Redemption 2 or a Grand Theft Auto 5 or now 6 coming up. I think it's okay for games that are simple, games that aren't so deep or aren't massive budget like blockbusters of games. I don't know how much Astrobot costs to make, but I'm sure it's cheaper than something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's great for games that are not the biggest blockbusters to be celebrated. And that's why I think it's also cool that Bellatra was there. Listen, a game that was made by one person was nominated for Game of the Year amongst some heavy contenders with something like Metaphoria Fantasio and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And that's cool. So, once again, I think Astrobot winning Game of the Year, it's awesome. I think it's a cool thing. It's hard to be mad at it. If you're mad about it, one, it's a arbitrary award. You shouldn't get too worked up about it, but I think it's a thing that we should celebrate. It's a thing that we can all kind of walk away from, and we can be like, hey, all right, a DLC didn't win Game of the Year. We can relax. The next Elden Ring DLC is now going to be a standalone game next year. So whatever that gets nominated, we can calm down a bit. Yeah, such a brilliant video game awards. It's going to be interesting because I do think there are going to be people who are the quote-unquote grifters who are going to complain about a lot of these games. Yes, I made the observation that a lot of the video games that were announced are games that are going to be having female protagonists or people of color or anything like that. Anyone who's complaining about those things, listen, I get it, I understand it, but these games look pretty great, and I think they're going to be good, and I think they deserve a chance, not because of some sort of political thing, but like, let's kind of, I think we need to look at back, we need to take a step back from gearing up for these game awards and looking over games for the past year. And I think we need to take a look at games and be like, you know what? Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's play these games. Let's see what they have to actually offer. And if we play them and they suck, or if we play them and they are so preachy and kind of insulting to your intelligence or your beliefs, sure, throw that out. Don't recommend it to people. It's fine. The future of gaming is exciting. Regardless of whatever your political, your religious, your idealistic, your social sort of beliefs are, video games are awesome. And I think that's what Astrobot reminds me, is that, hey, games are cool. It doesn't matter what everything else is or all the noise is around the games industry or gamers or games media or what have you. We love video games. We tune in because we love video games. We get mad about this stuff because we love video games. So, hey, going into 2025, I'm excited. We got some huge games dropping next year. Between GTA 6 coming out, a new Elden Ring game coming out, and then as well as, for me, Mafia Old Country is way up on the list of my most anticipated games. If GTA 6 wasn't coming out, that would be my most anticipated game of the year. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. Once again, congratulations to the team of Team Asobi? No, isn't that a band? Either way, congratulations to all of the winners, but congratulations to Astrobot and everyone behind it to make that game happen. And also, congrats to the dude that made Bellatra. That's incredible that you got such a great recognition at such a large platform. Shout out to Snoop Dogg. Hope you guys like the video. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. And for now, take it easy.